I think that every programming language has feature of building functions. A function is a named set of commands that can be easily reused. Let's see how to build a function in shell. The definition of the function is easy. The syntax is not very complicated, but as usually in Bash, when we write a function, we need to be aware of many possible pitfalls waiting for us. When I want to define a function, I need to use the keyword function, and next I give a name for the function. Next, in the curly brackets, I can enter the commands that will be executed when the function will be called. The definition of the functions may, but don't need to have brackets after the name of the function. That's a bit strange, because on this stage of the course you surely know that Bash is sensitive to every space, every letter, that you need to stick to the syntax, and here you can use brackets after the name or not, and all should work. Nice! To call the function, it is enough to enter the name of the function, and that's all. When I start a script that will call the function, I will see on the screen the effects of the actions taken by the function. Here it is the text, or maybe a question, maybe it is a weekend. So maybe we could write a function that indeed will validate if it is a weekend today or not. That's why I will use date. Note that when we call the function date, we can point to the format that should be used when returning the date information. The parameter is introduced with plus format. Format has a very good documentation. We can find here that to see the full name of the weekday, we can use a literal %A capital. But if we would use this format, we risk that the same script started in another region may not work correctly. The day name may be returned in French or Italian, and our script may compare the returned text with English name of the day. That's why I would rather recommend using literal %W lowercase. It is a number of the weekday. 0 is the Sunday and 6 is Saturday. Let's first check how to work with the date. Date plus format %W returns 6, because when this lesson was recorded, it was Saturday. Now we can come back to our script. I can now use a variable weekday, where I can save result returned by the date function, started with the format %W. Now, it is enough to create an adequate conditional statement that, depending on that, if it is Sunday or Saturday or other weekday, it will return the correct message. So, now we have a message telling us if it is the great time of weekend or not. Yes, it is a weekend. Now we are able to run the functions and perform some activities using them. By the way, in some programming languages, functions that perform some actions are called procedures, and functions that only return a calculated value are named just a function. In Bash, there is no difference related to that. Okay, that function performed some calculation. Here the date was calculated, executed conditional statement, and printed something on screen. But that function did not return anything. Sometimes it may be handier to have a function that will not display something on the screen, but rather would return something to the calling process. This external process could somehow use the returned value. Let's make such a modification in our example. When it is weekend, I want to return a positive message. Following Bash style, I need to return 0. In case of working day, I want to return a negative value. Following Bash style, it could be value of 1. Now I can write a new one conditional statement that, depending on the value that is returned by the is weekend, will return 1 or another message. It seems that the script is working correctly. It would be good to test also the message displayed when today would not be a weekend. It is harder to change the date or wait until my weekend finishes, so I will change the condition. Jeff Bezos would be proud of me. All the days will be working days. The condition is crazy. If the number of the weekday is equal to 0 and at the same time is equal to 6, as there is no such day, all the days will be working days. Ha! Let's see if my script displays now message suiting to the type of the day. Yes, it's working correctly. Let's come back to the old version of the script. I prefer to have a weekend from time to time. My function is not too communicative. It can return only the code, the exit code. The value returned by the return statement is known to as exit code. It can be checked by referencing to the variable $? It must be done just after calling the function. That should be equal to the exit code. But what if we would like to have more values generated by the function? Maybe it could be a string. It is a weekend, it is not a weekend. Yes, that can be done. First, I will uncomment the instructions displaying the messages. For the moment, I don't need the conditional statement outside of the function. I will do this in a bit different way. I will use a new variable, message, and I will save the variable text returned by the function is weekend. Note that the syntax is the same as I would use when the external command would be started from bash, $ and in the brackets name of the function. Now, having in the variable message a text generated by the isWeekend function, I can use this text. Here I will just display a new text and I will reuse the message variable again. And what we have? We have a weekend. In this lesson, we managed to build a function that can return some kind of information by the exit code or by other type of output. The output can be saved and consumed in the same way as we already saved the result of any other external command. In the coming lessons, we will discuss how to pass parameters to the functions.